That would be south of the.
That's true.
They were running out of stationary, yes.
Okay,
We're running out of stationery. These are the, it's the cap.
well, allegedly,
So
yeah,
she's
I,
like the next
yeah.
2 weeks.
She's like, this will have to get changed. It'll have to get changed.
It's a long shot. You do phase it in. We're not state farm.
We gotta buy stationary.
Like how soon?
I also don't think it's the because we're in.
Yeah, but next Monday. Actually, I noticed that too somewhere.
That's what it is.
What time is it on your body clock?
I have no.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Did you, were you able to sleep on the plane? Yeah. Yeah.
I thought for sure yesterday.
When did you get back? Yesterday, right? Saturday. Yeah, she worked with American. Play soccer. Huh? Well, in the graphic design department, perhaps?
Why didn't you return your call? It was funny because
It's like, it's a call.
10 o'clock to midnight.
That's what he was.
Oh, okay. Okay. She's gonna Let's see, this time. The detail behind it says.
Reality starts once you check it in,
Yeah, I don't have a car to speak.
Whoa.
Marcy asked me after I was being snarky with that email. Snarky.
Yeah.
I agree it's a better retreat topic if you want to wait, but I said,
Yeah.
you've said this, you mentioned this to me 3 times.
Right.
I thought if there's some urgency, bring it up. And I said, no, I can wait.
We're gonna have to get, we're gonna have to take another run at the logo.
No good.
I have
No doubt. Too bad.
Yeah.
We just keep our open. I don't know.
I mean, how many, that's what I said, we've been working on this thing for years.
And I hate to trade that one in for a lousy one.
Yep.
Yeah, you should see the other guy.
Okay. Too bad.
I've got this antique
Yep, I agree.
I like it.
when I go to take my switch off and scratch
Were there 5 items on the consent agenda we need to pull tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get
Stretch
to
the
it.
meeting a little bit.
Right.
Well, it's May, it's not April 1st, all right.
Today the first,
That
second.
was,
2nd of May. Not the first, not
that was
April
one of
2nd.
the all-time jobs.
That was
When we did that here.
to Carricker. And there were a lot of things on the agenda, right?
Yeah, we started pulling.
Oh,
left and right
oh, I
off the
remember that. Yeah,
Consent
yeah.
agenda, and
He was in.
He finally caught on.
Caught on,
Oh,
yeah.
what's going on?
When they started.
Did he make you go through them since you
They
pulled them?
started,
you know, we
they started-
pulled them.
When they pulled the minutes, he got suspicious.
I'm good, thanks. Unless Gertis gets windy.
You know, he's a man of a lot of words.
I know you don't trust me to pour. I'll hold it so that way I make
So I told Judy, she goes, there's gonna be a long meeting. I said, depends on the water director. He's giving a report.
things you
I
should
said,
live down.
No one in?
one of them.
Where's Mr. McCarthy?
Short and sweet.
It was just there.
Short and sweet.
What's going on? I don't know.
He was here. I saw.
Hey,
him.
Scott. Thank you.
Whole life he was in the house.
Watch the displays baseball scores. That's
There you go, huh?
There he is. There he is.
Now you have a reason.
Get to
now you
it.
have a reason to wear one.
Call to order, regular meeting for the Norwalk Town Council for May 2nd, 2016. Please call the roll.
Mayor Kus?
Here.
Mr. Fritzen?
Here.
Mr. Preston?
Here.
Mr. McBride?
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz? Here. Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Gaines is not here.
We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, we begin with the omnibus agenda. These are items that are considered routine and will be handled with one vote unless a council member would like to pull an item for discussion. I would like to be excused from voting on any bills I may have incurred in my duties as mayor. Ms. Lorenz?
I would like to pull item E, the resolution to waive the formal bidding process on the meter testing services.
Thank you. Motion for approval?
Move approval?
Second.
Please call, the items I'm slipping backwards, yeah. Items we're considering tonight are approval of the minutes of the public hearing of April 18th and the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 18th, 2016. Approval of town of normal expenditures for payment as of April 27th, 2016. A resolution accepting a bid and authorizing a contract with golf course construction and renovation of Taylor Ridge, Illinois. And that is for the renovation of sand bunkers at the Ironwood Golf Course and approval of a required budget adjustment. A resolution authorizing the execution of an Energy Strategic Plan Program Agreement with the City of Bloomington and the Ecology Action Center. A resolution partially approving the final plat of the Apostolic Christian Church Subdivision First Edition at 4408 East Rab Road. An ordinance amending Division 11 of Chapter 26 of the Town of Normal Municipal Code having to do with Level 3 Communication LLC franchise agreement. Please call the roll.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz? Aye. Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The omnibus is approved with the exception of item E, which is a resolution to waive the formal bidding process and accept a proposal from M.E. Simpson Company for a 5-year agreement for large meter testing services and water distribution system leak detection survey services. Ms. Lorenz?
I'd like to move for the approval of that resolution.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Lorenz?
Yes. Just a quick question, perhaps for staff, on the reason for waiving the bidding process on this particular item.
Several years ago, when we first started using leak detection services and large meter testing, we did do a RFQ. We quickly found out there was, in the Midwest, really only one other contractor that could do both services, and this particular company was far superior, had far better depth and far better documentation. We've been extremely happy with their services since. They interact well with our customers
Okay.
and require very little input from us.
Okay.
We've used them quite a bit for both large meter testing and leak detection, I'll just add, and the other advantage is they know our community, they know where the meters are, and so in that regard, it's very efficient. But the primary reason is there are just really no other companies that provide these services that are really capable of doing the work we want. So, but great question.
Okay. Thank you.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz? Aye. Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. We have two items of general orders tonight, and that first is a resolution approving waivers for the Uptown Design Review Code, Chapter 15, Division 17, having to do with One Uptown Circle. Motion for approval.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion on this item? Mr. Peterson?
Just, I want to point out a couple things. Really no significant changes from what the Uptown Design Review Commission considered and in the exterior elevation plans you approved as part of the development agreement for One Uptown Circle. However, if you look at the report prepared by Ms. Davison, kind of in the middle of page 2, she mentions 3 things that have been changed from the original plan that you saw and approved as part of the development agreement to the plan that was considered by the UDRC. Items 2 and 3, frankly, are not of great concern to us. The sunshade structure on the south terrace is a relatively minor feature, And even Mr. Reichel said the outdoor terrace on the west end of the Bloomington elevation was something they weren't sure they were going to do. They could finish that out later, but was not something they were going to do right away. So we weren't surprised that those were not shown on the plan that the UDRC reviewed. We were a little bit surprised, however, that the canopy around the circle did not include the vegetative roof. That was part of the submittal as part of the development agreement, and that I personally believe is a significant feature. And I guess I would just, even though that's not really part of the action you're taking, I just want to note that for the record, and I have shared with the developer, it is our expectation that canopy will be designed in such a way to support a vegetative roof, and that the vegetative roof will be part of the final project. They indicated some cost issues they're trying to address, but I think if they want to remove that particular element from the design, they need to come back to the council and request a change in the development agreement, so that is reflected. But other than that, I think all of the other exceptions that are noted in the report were ones that we expected, and I think the UDRC generally was enthusiastic and supportive of the design. I just wanted to point out that one deviation from the renderings that you saw and that you approved as part of the development agreement.
To be clear, whatever our action here tonight does not really affect that.
Correct. That's my understanding, that the development agreement still stands. I'm looking at council to make sure that's true, but I think it's important for the record that be noted, and we will continue to inform the developers that is a feature that we at least would expect to be part of the final product, and if they want to change it, they need to come back and specifically request that be removed, and then you all can have that conversation at the time.
Great. Mr. Fritzen?
I guess that begs a question on my part. Because it's a canopy and not a roof of the building, so we have a lot of things in our ordinances that require landscaping and new development and the like, and we all know that a few years down the road, a lot of times some of that landscaping is not in as good a shape as we'd like it to be, and so it's one thing to require it to be installed, it's another thing to for somebody to maintain it in an appropriate manner long-term. We have vegetation on a roof here. It's easily accessible, it's easily cared for, by caretakers, compared to something on a canopy, which, I don't know that I'm looking for an answer, but it seems to me that this might present some more difficulties than a rooftop vegetation might present. So I understand it's something that some folks might think is important. To me, I'm more concerned about if we do it, how are we going to care for it, and how is it going to look down the road and the like, especially considering where it's located. I don't know that it's not a top priority for me yet, but if we do require it or encourage it, I want to make sure it's something that can be cared for in a proper way long-term.
I think in the face of that, giving the prominence of that and the location of it, I think there's certainly a lot of motivation on the part of the owner to keep his building looking nice. And those roof systems, as I understand, really don't require a lot of moisture to thrive. They can go dormant in times of drought and come right back. But I agree with Mr. Peterson that it is a significant part of the building, and it speaks a lot to what we're doing in the uptown area as a whole. Further on this item, please call the roll.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz? Aye. Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. Resolution is approved. Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the execution of Amendment Number 2 to the intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the Southside Boarding Platform and Auxiliary Waiting Room at the Normal Multimodal Transportation Center. Move approval. Thank you.
Second.
Is there discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The resolution is approved. We have one item of new business tonight, and that is a presentation by the Town of Normal Water Department, Director Steve Gertis, concerning the recently completed water treatment plant study and the plan for implementing the recommendations of that study. Steve, it's all yours.
As Steve comes up, let me just, by way of introductions, remind you that one of your top strategic priorities for this year was to begin implementation of the water treatment plant study that was completed in April of 2014. It is a comprehensive study of the treatment plan, and it did really yielded no major surprises to staff, but it did confirm some of the deficiencies that we were aware of and laid out, I think, a very good plan for upgrading and updating and improving the treatment plant so that it is going to be viable for this community for many years into the future. Water Department's already begun that process. We are already beginning, have been working this year on a number of plant improvements that were called out in the treatment plant study, and that will continue into the future. But we thought, given that this is a strategic priority, we should bring you up to date on what we're doing and what we plan to do in the future, and there will be some budget implications which we have addressed in the current and the future out years of the Water Department budget.
The treatment plant planning study began early in 2014, was completed in 2015.
Yeah, I think I said 24, I meant April 2015. I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah, that's all right. It was conducted by Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley Consulting Engineers. The purpose was to assess the existing water treatment plant and operations and provide recommendations for future improvements. Process, mechanical, electrical, civil, and structural engineers were part of the evaluation team. CMT staff interviewed the treatment plant staff during the plant walkthrough when they conducted some of the evaluations. Following that, a workshop was conducted to discuss some of the findings. So the first question that the engineers decided they needed answered was how much water and where is the water and what is in the water. They evaluated a 10-year period from 2004 to 2013 as part of the study. And the average flow for that 10-year period is 4.34 million gallons per day. The 10-year average of the high day for the last 10 years was 6.34 million gallons per day. The highest high day was 7.26 million gallons, and the lowest high day was 5.53 million gallons. Generally, those are heavily influenced by the amount of rainfall and the amount of lawn watering, irrigation, and that sort of thing. This chart is a little bit too much, so to speak, but it charts out water usage that was used during the study, showing the average high day, the maximum high day, the minimum high day, and the single high day. Water quality was taken into consideration from 2013. The average alkalinity 423 parts per million, total hardness of 421, non-carbonate hardness of 8, sodium alkalinity of 10, pH of 7.32, iron content of 1.74, calcium 255, magnesium 166, fluoride concentration from the well water 0.42, ammonia, which is significant, is 2.35, free CO2 of 41.8, and a turbidity of 1.4, and an average temperature of 58 degrees. So what are some of the things CMT evaluated? First, we looked at the aerator. The aerator is the first step in the process of the treatment plant. They assessed its existing condition, and as well as how it related to the 10th state standards for construction. They also took a look at the solids contact clarifiers. These are used in the softening process where the hardness is reacted with lime and is reduced and settled out. They also looked at the recarbonation system. Takes the pH back down from the lime softening process and stabilizes the water. They also looked at the filtration system. The filtration system was upgraded a few years ago with an IEPA revolving loan fund. In not too many years, that will be paid for. They also looked at the clear wells, the existing condition of the clear wells. High service pumping was evaluated not only for capacity, but reliability and condition. They took a look at the chemical storage and feed systems. They looked at the chlorine system, lime feeding system, the alum system, polyphosphate system, fluoride system, chlorine dioxide generation system, and the orthophosphate feed system. And then they did some other non-water treatment observations. They did structural observations, buildings and structures. They took a look at all the electrical panels, power distribution, utility feed, backup emergency power, and talked a lot about some of the maintenance problems that exist within the existing plant. Based upon that evaluation, some recommendations for improvement were made. These recommendations were categorized into projects that require further evaluation and capital improvement projects. The projects that require some further evaluation, first of which was biological filter pilot plant testing. We need to take a look at removal of the ammonia through some biological means, which will help reduce the chance of nitrification within the distribution system. We actually had some conversations with the IEPA about how to go about this, and it was decided that within the next year or so we'd reconstruct our old pilot plant and try to run the pilot plant and see what we could find out about how that should be designed and how that should work. Alternative oxidant was hydrogen peroxide, conversion to sodium hypochlorite and hydrochloric acid storage and feed system, all got rolled up into an additional study on disinfection and where we want to go with disinfection. Currently we use chlorine gas in ton cylinders, and we have to do a fairly extensive risk management program for those items. We have done a study, and the final product of that study is not in, but the tentative draft report is in, and the recommendation will come back that we stay with the 1-ton cylinders, mostly from an economic standpoint, from a reliability standpoint, and install a 1-ton dry chlorine scrubber, which would capture any chlorine gas that was released, neutralize it before it escaped. Capital improvement projects were prioritized based upon the need and the financial feasibility of implementing the improvements. Capital improvement projects were categorized into projects to be implemented in 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 11 to 20 years. In the first 5 years, capital improvement projects are listed here. First of which is to replace the site generator with a 750 kVA generator and replace electrical panels B and L2. That project has been bid and will be constructed this fall.
The generator's been ordered and is being built
Yeah,
and is to be delivered when, Steve, remind me?
probably September.
And this is a massive generator, about the size of like a rail car almost. It's huge.
Pretty good size.
Much larger than our current generator, but obviously much more capability.
The arc flash analysis needs to be redone. That has been not only budgeted, but is under contract right now. That work will be starting within the next couple months. Install, install pH meters in clarifier effluent. This was a recommendation for control of lime feed. We plan on implementing that later on this year. We've had a lot of discussions about exactly how we want to do that. New 18-inch valves on the north side of the treatment plant and a new 6-inch connection to the existing water main on the south side of the treatment plant. The 3 18-inch valves on the north side of the treatment plant leading to the distribution system don't seal off well. We've had some problems getting them to shut. But in order to replace those, we need to make another connection to the south, basically to feed water to the treatment plant so we can make more water. A fairly significant project. Inspecting the backwash recycle tank was not part of this study, but it was felt that it needed to be done, and that's budgeted in fiscal year 17-18, as well as a tightness test for Lefroy storage tanks. Fluoride system utilizes hydrofluorosilicic acid. Those tanks are in-ground tanks, and we hope to get those evaluated next year. New weirs, existing trough modifications, clarifier, effluent flow measurement. Those improvements are for the smaller clarifier that generally operates in the wintertime. Again, that's been budgeted for fiscal year 17-18. Full recoating of the existing clarifiers is a sandblasting and repainting of the steel structures inside the clarifiers. One is budgeted for 17-18, the other one is budgeted for 18-19. Due to some timing problems, it really can't do more than just one a year. There's a narrow period of time where we can do that work. And a lime silo air sweep system. We've had some problems with lime arching, bridging, rat holing in the storage tank. We had that cleaned out a couple weeks ago. Trying to assess how we'd put the air sweep system in. That's been budgeted for 18-19. And the following, the last item on the list for the first 5 years is to repair clarifier gear drives and replace mixers. And again, that's spread over 2 fiscal years, mainly because only one of those clarifiers can be out of service at a time. Some of the capital improvement projects for 6 to 10 years were rehabilitation of the existing aerator, existing clarifier flow split, chemical feed consolidation. Currently, chemical feed is done basically all over the plant. There's one chemical here, one here, one here, one here. Change flow rates, you end up making a trip around the whole plant to get to the feed systems. This will consolidate those feed systems in one area. Upgrade of the treatment plant SCADA system to Allen Bradley Control Logics, PLCs. The existing SCADA system is right at 15 years old. Technology has, as you well know, has taken leaps and bounds since then. So there's so much more we can do with monitoring and control.
Essentially communication equipment.
Convert process areas to Allen Bradley PLC's micro or compact logics, remote I/O racks. This is more monitoring, control, communications, and updating the SCADA platform to Factory TalkView SE. Add dedicated terminal server for security. Again, that's more monitoring, control. And elevator renovations. Currently, we have a freight elevator on the north side of the building that we use to get pumps, chemicals, motors, various things in and out of the building. Elevator regulations have changed considerably since that was put in, and it needs to be updated. We're almost done. One of the other things they had down for 11 to 20 years was convert the carbon dioxide feed system to a pressure solution feed. And the big one for down the road is to replace the 2 existing clarifiers with 3 new 47-foot diameter claricones. These are clarifiers that would act as softening basins and replace the 2 existing ones. And last is the new office building. That's to move billing, administration, and those services outside of the treatment plant, so that space could be used for chemical feed and storage, rearrange some of the things, make it a little more efficient. Some of the report recommendations that are already being implemented, chlorine study, as I talked about earlier, to evaluate switching to sodium chloride or installing a scrubber. The draft report is done and indicates that it's probably economically best for us to install a scrubber. Replacement of the emergency generator at the treatment plant, as we said, is already underway. Generator should be there in September. And improvements to the lime feed system, some of those are underway. We've installed a hose pump and some other control systems to the lime feed system. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So there will be a test here shortly for everybody, but let me just make a couple of closing comments. Really, the improvements, I see it fall into 3 major categories. Safety, and there are some real safety issues in the water treatment process. A lot of those have to do with chemical handling. So some of these important recommendations really address safety, how we're using chemicals, the type, how we handle them, how the chemicals are stored, and so forth. Other improvements address water quality, ways in which we can continue to provide safe drinking water to our residents, and address some of the compounds that I think that 3rd or 4th slide showed a variety of
Parameters.
Pardon me?
Parameters.
Parameters, okay, in our water that we need to address. And again, the regulations are constantly changing, and typically they are tightening, so we have to our tolerances are much lower than, or will be much lower than they are today, so we're anticipating that. And then the 3rd category is just efficiency of the plant, knowing that we expect to grow, we expect to have to treat more water on an average day than we are today. Although, surprisingly, our consumption growth has been much slower than anticipated. I think a lot of that's due to just conservancy on the part of our water consumers, as well as devices and fixtures that require less water. They're just more efficient. So that has been helpful, but clearly the plant will need to continue to grow, and we have a limited amount of space there. So we've got to be more efficient with our space in order to increase the capacity. So that's kind of in a nutshell. So the upshot is we can have a new public library, or we can have 3 new 47-foot Claricones. Yeah. Because they're about the same price. So we're going to opt for the library first and the Claricones later. Some of those things, as we go on in the future, we don't know how many of those things. Some of these recommendations we don't have to do, but they're recommended. Others we're going to have to do at some point. But you can see there are fairly significant budget implications associated with these improvements, and we will be using this information as we perform a rate analysis for the water function, because these things come with dollars, and the ratepayers, or the customers, ultimately have to pay the bill. So we're planning to do another rate analysis in another year or so to kind of determine, are we on track with our rates? Are we going to be able to address these issues in addition to all of the distribution issues that we need to address? And we just need to make sure our rate structure is sufficient to do that going forward. And so this information, the budget information, is very, very important in that regard.
Mr. Fritz and then Mr. Preston.
You addressed some of my questions were that. One was, we did do a rate study previously. We made some significant changes in our rates. And so I guess I'm looking at the 1 to 5 year group of projects. There were 3 pretty large, pushing $750,000 to $1 million projects there. How much of that is doable with the current revenue stream that we have, and of course, a $20 million thing, that's a different funding source, I assume, so. But how much of this is
Yeah.
achievable as is, and
I think in the 1 to 5 year range, we're in decent shape. As long as we continue to keep up with our rates and keep adjusting periodically. As you get out beyond 5 years, then we'll have some challenges, and we've got to be, so, rates, you can't wait till the expense is here to adjust the rate. You've got to have those rates kind of ramped up to meet those needs. So we may need to make some adjustments. I don't think massive ones, but, because we've done a pretty good job of, maintenance increases, but we will need to look at some rate increases sometime over the next 5 years, primarily to address those further out year projects. But I think we're in pretty good shape in the short run. And we've accomplished a lot with the rate increase that you all approved a number of years back in the distribution system in particular. And we've done quite a bit in the treatment plant too. We've taken advantage of some really inexpensive, basically no interest or very low interest money from the IEPA to make some significant plant upgrades in the filtration system, which we did, two or 3 years ago, Steve?
Yeah.
Major project, and that's been very helpful. But there's a lot more yet to come. But, I think that the good news is here, there's nothing that came out of this study that was surprising to Steve. These are all things that we knew existed and knew we were going to have to address. That's the good news. And nothing there that's insurmountable. I mean, these are things that we can deal with. That's the good news.
I guess the other question I had is, the water treatment plant's been where it is as long as I can remember, and obviously the town has grown considerably, and yet we still treat from the same place, using the same plant. You're talking about efficiencies, helping with that. When you started talking about the high use days and whatever, how taxed are we when we have a 6 million gallon day? I mean, if our usage went from the average of 4+ million gallons a day to 6+ million gallons per day, would
Not much
no
of a
problem?
The plant has a rated capacity of 9.6 million gallons per day. The highest we've ever had is roughly a little over 2/3 of that capacity. And that was under some rather specific circumstances, a little bit of catch-up in that case. When we redid the filter project, we designed that one for a 12 million gallon per day capacity. When we did some of the Clearwell improvements, we also sized those for 12 million gallon a day capacity. In all likelihood, if we had to go to 12 million gallons per day, we could run both clarifiers and probably get there. We'd have some paperwork to do with IEPA to get re-rated, which probably wouldn't be a big deal.
Very good.
Mr. Preston?
To kind of pick up, Mr. Peterson, answered part of my question, and then Mr. Fritzen picked up on a little bit more. Mr. Gertis, would you mind going back to, I think it was your third or fourth slide, it was the table that talked about the water usage that was trending from 2004 to 13. As we're talking about this, I believe that the average overall, though there's variation in years, has continued kind of a slight decline. Is that correct?
Slightly, yes.
Is that something we anticipate that trend will continue even as the population, has grown over those 10 years, especially the first portion of that, my assumption would be, but is
I don't know that you can really say that that'll continue. The regulation for low-flow toilets and water-conserving fixtures took place in the 90s. There's a period of time where that ramped up. There's going to come a period of time where that's pretty much had all the effect that it's going to have. Past that, the two factors are mostly how much did it rain and how much people that are irrigate or water lawns. But from a general household wintertime consumption rate, I don't see that it's going to go up or down a whole lot either way, at least on a per capita basis.
I would say, Mr. Preston, I think there's a couple other factors. If there were some sort of a business manufacturing process that was a heavy water user, that could have a significant impact on our average daily consumption. The other is the university, our largest water customer, and their consumption has probably, I think, been declining or flat or declining due to a combination of reduced fixtures as well as, again, improvements in their fixtures. They've upgraded and are using much more efficient fixtures. And I think if the university would grow significantly over the next 10, 15 years, that would certainly have an impact on our water consumption, our average daily consumption. But I'm kind of with Steve. I think you will probably see growth. I don't know that it'll be dramatic, but I think we'll continue to see growth over time. But it could change dramatically if we don't have a lot of, we have very few significant businesses that are big water consumers. And if somehow, a large manufacturer came that was a significant water consumer, that could change the picture. It's a two-edged sword. We do have limited capacity, although right now we're in real good shape. But we obviously don't want to see water consumption grow dramatically, but the revenue is nice. That helps pay the bills, because a lot of the costs that we deal with in water are fixed. Whether we treat 1 gallon or, 1 million gallons, some of those costs are fixed. So it would be somewhat helpful financially if we did see an increase in water consumption, and that would help on the revenue side.
As a point of reference, I'm not sure if we know this information, but one was the Mitsubishi plant, when it was running at full operation, was that a heavy user of water? And two, if so, what kind of range are we talking about per day? Do we have any guess?
It was a significant water user, but it's served by the city of Bloomington, so it didn't affect us. The decision was made when the plant came into the community. Bloomington had much greater capacity than we had at the time, and so the decision was made that it would be best to have Bloomington serve that plant. And so it coming offline will have no impact on our water consumption or our revenue.
Thanks.
Ms. Lorenz, and then Mr. McCarthy.
Back to the item 6 to 10 years out, the $20 million. Being that this is a enterprise fund, how do we, and this may be a question more for you, Mark, or either you, Steve, how do we begin to plan for that so that we can have that rainy day fund for the $20 million ticket item?
Yeah, there are a couple of ways. We probably won't save up that kind of money, so we'll borrow it.
Okay.
Usually in enterprise funds, it's through a revenue bond,
Okay.
Whereby the obligation is repaid by the ratepayers or the revenue generated by the activity. So you don't have the full faith and credit of the town backing those bonds. Now, you can do a general obligation bond. It's another way to do it, and sometimes the interest rate's a little lower, but typically, in an enterprise fund, you don't want to necessarily bind the city or tie up their debt capacity for a water or sewer operation. So it'll be a revenue bond, but we'll have to make sure that the revenue stream is there at the time to cover that bond, and certainly, the more we can pay up front in cash and lower that total borrowed amount, the better.
Okay.
So I think it'll be a combination of trying to build a war chest, if you will, over time, slowly, and then borrowing what we need to close the gap.
All right, good.
Mr. McCarthy?
So you're saying if I have a water-saving shower head, I can take long showers?
Sure.
Excellent.
The longer the better.
Without principally affecting this. Really just one question. We talked about relocating staff, and not immediately in the recommendations that we started talking about that or thinking about that out of the plant.
For the purposes of this study, they anticipated building another building just on the west side of the Clear Wells.
Okay.
And that's simply to provide some extra space in the plant for future expansion. The staff there, how many you got in the building? 6 or, actual office?
6.
6, and they're in a very tight, not a lot of space there. They're very cozy. But at some point, I think that the idea was that space might become valuable. I don't think I don't think we need to worry about it anytime soon, but it is good news to know that we're in good shape with that plant. I mean, to pick up a treatment plant and move it somewhere else, build a new one on the edge of town is a big deal. Very, very expensive. And just the rerouting of your system. I mean, all your raw water has to go to a different place, and your treated water comes out. It would be an enormous undertaking. People have suggested from time to time, wouldn't it make sense to use the water department site for redevelopment? And that might be nice, but the cost would be astronomical to relocate that plant. So we're, at least in my mind, it's very good news that we currently have sufficient capacity in there for the foreseeable future. We don't need to even think about any significant changes in that plant for a long time. I think probably before that comes, our issue will be supply. And, we do have limited supply, and fortunately, we're in real good shape right now. But at some point, we'll probably have to look at adding another well or two out in the western part of the county, and probably look at a redundant raw water main going out to the western part of the county to have just a backup, if nothing else, to the current raw water main. That'll be significant dollars, but that again is at this point not imminent. That's a long way out, but that is something we take into account when we look at long-term rates. So that'll be part of that rate analysis, because that'll be needed someday, but I don't know, maybe 20 years from now, something like that. Steve might be retired by then.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could
Maybe
happen.
not.
It could happen. Huh?
It could happen.
Further on this item, questions? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
I can,
Steve. Thanks.
before taking a motion for adjournment, are there comments or concerns? I'll make one. As you all know, I was in Germany for a week with Kyle Hamm at the Hanover Messe, the world's largest industrial fair, and I will tell you, it was an unbelievable sight, the technology that was on display there, and massive pieces of machinery and technology. And talking to the people, for instance, at Siemens, they had like 4 days to set it up. It was just unbelievable. We had good meetings with prospective manufacturers who are looking to do business in the United States. I think Kyle and I took probably 14, 15 meetings altogether. The group as a whole took about 40 meetings. I would characterize them as anywhere from dead ends to very, very strong possibilities. So we'll be following up with those companies that we think we've got some potential with. We really didn't find a manufacturer that was willing or needed 2.5 million square feet of plant. So that's probably no surprise to anybody, because that's a very, very large facility at Diamond Star, and it takes a very special user for that. We did fortunately stumble on a gentleman who was representing Missouri and Southern Illinois, and who was headed to a auto show in Stuttgart. And he said, I don't have a facility anywhere like that, so if you want to hand me some of your paperwork and that, I'll pass it around down in Stuttgart. So we'll see what comes of that. But a very good show. I'm not sure I would do it again. It was a lot of work. Don't ask me how I did it, but being gone for a week, I have not experienced any jet lag at all. I don't know how that happened. But I think we'll see some positive activity out of that. It may take a year or two to move that forward, but it was certainly well worth the effort and the time. Motion for adjournment. Mr. McCarthy.
Yep, just a quick comment. Wanted to, although I don't see him in the audience tonight, give a thank you to Uptown Joe, Mr. Uptown, I think. his title is. If anybody attended Rock the Block, it was a successful event from all accounts, from a fundraising perspective and from a resident perspective. I've got approached by no less than a dozen residents thanking us for a great job of putting that on, which I directed them at Joe for that. And but just people seem to really enjoy themselves and really enjoy the fact that we're doing that and allowing that to happen in Uptown Normal. So just wanted to recognize that.
Great. Motion for adjournment?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Ms. Gaines?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzman?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. We're adjourned.